The purpose of this meeting is to really introduce a new idea we are launching, which is obvious from the name MECA Toastmaster Club. So I'm sure that many of you are quite familiar with the Toastmaster clubs, which are all around the world. And I see many of you are already participants in the local Toastmaster club. What we want to do from Mecca CFO Academy is basically take the leverage of the many good things or many strengths Toastmaster clubs have, combining with what we are doing good work at Mecca CFO Academy, and really make it a very compelling value proposition for you to benefit from it. So the main objective of this Mecca Toastmaster Club is to help corporate professionals. So we are not limiting it to finance professionals only, although there are mostly finance professionals, but this is communication. So we are really trying to open it up for all professionals to help them build their communication skills to a mastery level, not really ordinary presentations, but to a mastery level by providing a robust platform where they can develop the knowledge and also practice the skills in a professional environment. Toastmasters have a very robust structure of local clubs, which, according to their convenience, they meet 1 or 2 or 3 times a month. And that's a very important part of the communication skills development, that you practice it. And I call it jumping into the water. You can watch 100 videos on swimming. You can read 100 books on swimming lessons. But unless and until you jump into the water, you are not going to learn swimming, right? That's the same thing applicable for communications, that you could learn all the theories, all the material, all the formats and the mainframes, but unless you start practicing it, you are not going to develop that skills. So one common place for all of you to really practice is your workplace, right? If you have the right level of seniority, right level of title, right environment, then of course you practice very well, and many of you are masters in it. But for many professionals, there is not right environment, they don't have the right people around, and they really miss this opportunity to practice their communication skills. So that is where the Mecca CFO Academy and Toastmaster Club comes in the picture, that by using the platform of Toastmaster, you have opportunity on a regular basis to go in a professional environment, meet people like you from other backgrounds and other organizations, and practice your communication skills and get their feedback and also help them provide your feedback. So it's a very productive environment and a professional environment to practice it. So that's the one objective we want to achieve here. Now, I want to give you some of my philosophies with related to communication, because there is a very good framework with Toastmaster as far as the communication is concerned. At Mecca CFO Academy, we have a slightly in-depth model or in-depth framework, because based on those philosophies, I don't think simply by practicing you could really develop the level of mastery. Think about your life or the typical life of a professional. You can segment the life into two phases. One is the first part, where we spend most of the time learning, developing ourselves, basically going through the education cycles until we reach to 2025, right? In this phase, we are supposed to, required to build our knowledge. So we build a lot of knowledge is dumped upon us from the elementary to secondary to high school to college, universities. We are piling up knowledge and knowledge and knowledge, books after books, lecture after lecture, video after video. We develop all that knowledge. So we are, by 2025, we are ready to jump into the water in the real world. That's the first phase. In the second phase, so we build up the knowledge in the first phase, we got our degrees and certifications. Now, in the second phase, what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to use that knowledge, execute that knowledge, because we are starting a career. We are doing a full-time job and try to give results to our employers or businesses, right? Now, in this phase, it's quite different than the first phase. First phase, we were focused on building up the knowledge, right? And we built up very good knowledge. And we did have friends, but we were not required to work with other people during that phase. Now, in this knowledge execution phase, where you are working for an employer, you are supposed to work with other people, right? That's a requirement, not only a luxury to have friends, but a requirement to work with other people, right? That is where comes the main challenge, because now we are supposed to use our knowledge we have built up in the first phase, and we are supposed to work with other people. Unfortunately, we do not get any formal training to work with other people, like interactive skills, leadership skills, communication skills, like emotional intelligence. We are not trained on it. Some people who are naturally good, they make a lot of progress. Most people really struggle because they are supposed to work with the people, but they are not trained into it. And that is where the main challenge happens for many people. So knowledge building and knowledge execution. So what we are saying here, that in order to be an effective and successful career professional, you have to have the ability and the competency to work with other people. And communication is one of them, but it's more than communication. That's what we are talking about. Look at this chart. So I'm sure many of you are, or all of you are familiar with the IQ and EQ. So IQ is general intelligence, which we all have. And of course, as a matured adult, you have a reasonable level of IQ. So we are all intelligent. But EQ, the emotional intelligence, varies significantly from person to person, from people to people. And if you could relate with the previous slides, like first phase and second phase, in the first phase of life, when we are completing our education, when we are building up our knowledge, only thing we need is IQ. If you are intelligent, you make good grades, you have good academic achievements, and you make a lot of progress. In the second phase of life, when you are working with a lot of people in an organization or business, you need EQ, emotional intelligence, because you want to work with other people, right? And those other people are also matured adult, but they may coming from a different background, they have different emotions, they have different social and values. It's a challenge to work with them, and their emotional intelligence becomes very important. Again, unfortunately, we are not trained in emotional intelligence formally. Some people are naturally good, some people are not, and those who are not trained, they really struggle. So that is one of the main thing. It is said that people are hired for high level of IQ, but they are fired because of low level of EQ. How true it is, right? Because if you are not able to work, no matter how intelligent you are, if you are not able to work with other people, you are not successful in your career or in your job or in your profession. So that's also a very important thing to understand, that IQ and EQ relates to these different phases of our life. Look at this chart. This is very important. So there are different behaviors here in this chart. From the top, if you see, is communication, of course, we are talking about, but our performance, attitude, behavior, personality. When you meet other people, you see all of those things at the surface, right? You see their level of communication, attitude, personality, behavior. And many times we try to fix those behaviors at that level. For employers, like, they want to improve the performance of employees, they try to work at that level by giving them guidance, instructions, other things, lectures, trainings. It doesn't work, because if you look at this picture, the lower side, beneath the surface, beneath the iceberg, there are drivers which really create those behaviors. So your belief system, what you believe into, your ability to adopt, your knowledge, your self-awareness, your creativity, your empathy, your cultural awareness, your personality, your emotional intelligence, your critical thinking, all these factors contribute to your performance at the surface, your attitude at the surface, your communication, your behavior, your personality, right? So you could develop communication skills by really repeating or reciting certain text, and you memorize a speech and develop some confidence, you can deliver it. But the real communication, or the top speakers or the master speakers, really speak from their heart. That is where come this framework, that if you have the right beliefs, if you have the right emotional intelligence, if you have a critical thinkings, these behavior on the surface become a lot more easier. You speak from the heart, you speak, you don't have to prepare things a lot, right? That is the framework we follow at Mecca CFO Academy. So, as I said, combining the two things, the platform of Toastmaster to practice and understanding and building up the knowledge behind all these leadership skills from Mecca, that would give you the right combination of the skills and the competencies which will make you successful in your professional life. What you see in this slide is the human brain development at the very initial stage of life. So this is for babies, and this is from Harvard Medical University, so very reliable. You see three lines in this chart, and the axis at the bottom is basically, it starts from before the birth of the child. So -8, -7, these are the time period of conception. when a mother is pregnant. And then you see 1, 2, 3, 4, which are the first 12 months. And then the scale changes into years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What it shows that let's look one by one. So yellow line is sensory pathways, our hearing, vision, smell, and touch. These things started to develop right after the birth because you need a physical body to develop these senses, but it starts right after the birth and develops very quickly. And by the age of 12 months, a baby has developed all these senses to a very reasonable level of competency. That's one. Look at the blue line about the language we develop. Now, many people think that child is started to learn language by the age of 2, 3, 4 years, right? How wrong? It starts even before the birth, before child is born. It starts because they have that developed the ability to hear the sounds, and while hearing the sounds, they are also developing the understanding of that language. It reaches to the peak at the age of 8, 9 months only. See there. And by the time they are 2, 3, 4 years of age, they are already speaking with high level of competency because the process started a lot more earlier. Look at the last line, red line. This is the cognitive functions, our ability, our intelligence, how it is developed. So again, look at the line where it is starting. It is starting before birth and then is climbing very fast. By 12 months, it reaches the peak. It remains at the peak for 2, 3 years, and it started to decline from the age of 5, 6, 7 years, right? So I'm sure you must have heard the experts saying that the personality of a child is developed in the first 5, 6, 7 years. That is what this chart is telling us, that they have learned all these basic skills in that age, and cognitive, the intelligence level, basically reaches to the peak at the early age and it started to decline and almost matures by the age of 14, 15. So by the age of 14, 15, when you are a teenager, you have basically learned all the natural skills which you were supposed to learn. So that's one thing to really understand, that how the development process happens. There is another interesting chart which tells you from the same source. There are two simple lines. One is the brain's ability to change in response to experiences, and the other is the amount of effort required to make these changes. So look at this blue line first. As a young child or baby for the age of 2, 3, you have very high ability to change in response to who are the people you are interacting, what are the experiences you are interacting. Ability is very high, but as you grow in age, it started to decline very fast, and by the age of 29, 30, it's basically breaking even and going to decline. The other line, which is showing the amount of effort which is required to learn changes, is going up. So as the lesson here is very simple, as we age, as we grow in our age, our ability to change declines significantly. First chart told us that by 14, 15, it's mature. Then I guess the average age of this group is probably plus minus 40. Then what are we doing here? Because we all are ambitious here to learn new skills, right? It doesn't mean that you cannot learn these skills. What you need is interventions. We start interventions from the very beginning. When the child gets the age of 4, 5, 6, we send them elementary school. That's an intervention to boost and accelerate the process. And as we go to the high school and college and university, those are already interventions to boost our knowledge and expertise. It doesn't stop there. In our practical life, second phase, we continue to have those interventions. So people who come to these trainings, people who go to Toastmasters, people who go to come to Mecca Academy, these are interventions. You are using these interventions to change this curve. The curve you are looking at your screen, you are trying to change that, which means you are trying to increase your ability to change even at mature age. Now, experts tell us, based on the latest research, that change is possible even at the age of 60, 70, if you do it rightly. So, it is very important to understand this basic framework and then see that what you need to do to change those lines in our ability. So, having a belief that yes, if you do the right things, you can change yourself. Now, back to the Mecca Toastmaster collaboration. As I said, that Mecca is expert or have expertise in these philosophies, in these knowledge, in these skills, in these frameworks. Toastmaster provide a platform to practice. When you combine the two, then you make a meaningful development in communication skills, or I would call it leadership skills. So that is what we'll do. I'll explain you the structure, how we would run it. But it is very important to understand these basic philosophies on which our learning would go on during these phase or process. This is Mecca leadership framework. I'm sure many of you have gone through it and you are very familiar with that. So it's, you see some in the middle there is communication. So the framework is, leadership framework for Mecca is that it starts with your inner game, your mindset. If you don't change your mindset and you want to develop your skills, communication skills or leadership without changing your mindset, you can do that, but that would not be permanent or stable. So you start in logical manner with your mindset or inner game, right? And then you lead that mindset to work with peak performance or high performance or work life integration, which provides a lot of productivity and opportunity to work at a high level. That's part of your personal leadership, these two things. When you work in your mindset, basically you are working all by yourself in this phase. Your mindset, your inner game, your productivity, your peak performance, you are basically developing your personal leadership to deal with the external world, right? It's very challenging. So first you want to work yourself. When you are ready to change, to deal with the external world, you need two additional forces: your personal brand and your relationship and networking. Now, personal brand is other people's perception about you. So it doesn't really matter how talented you are or how talented you think you are. What really matters, what other people think about you. Because if you are really very talented and nobody believes that, your talent is going to work for nowhere. So it is very important. And if you think that you are talented, other people do not think so, it is your responsibility to work with them to make them believe that you are talented, so you could provide value for them as well as they would take the opportunity to get benefit from you. That's one. All of you are working professionals, so I think I don't need to explain you what is the benefit of relationship and networking. We are human being, we are social being actually. We love to work with other people, right? And if you have good relationship, not necessarily friendship, friendship is the high level of relationship, but even if you have some good relationship, it becomes a lot more easier to work through. Now the next item here in this chart is communication. Communication is significantly enhanced if you have a good personal brand and if you have a good relationship or networking. That is what we are talking about. So look, we are talking about communication, but it's not just communication. It starts with your mindset, your inner game. Then you work on your life to reach to a high level of performance. And then you use the tools of personal branding and relationship. And then you deliver your communication. It becomes very powerful. And your result is nothing but your influence, just your influence. All other things are secondary. You may have a goal and objective to reach certain level of title or position, make money, big house, big cars. All those are secondary. Once you develop an ability to influence people around you, all those things will come by itself. If you could influence, it start with the family, your loved one, your influence, your friends, your neighbors, your work colleagues, everyone you deal with. If you develop an ability to influence them, you are a very successful leader. That's what framework we follow at MECA CFO Academy. And I think communication fits very well right in the middle, because communication is basically the only link between you, your personal leadership, and your public leadership. That's the only link. This is the only tool available to communicate or to interact with the external world. So if you are not good, if you have very strong, powerful personal leadership, but you don't have good communication, it's all going to waste. So it is so important because it will really make or break for you. This is what we call it. The combination of the MECA CEO Forget Me and Toastmaster is a lethal combination for career growth. So what are we looking at the two organizations? Toastmaster, a few strengths. It's 100 years old organization and they are doing it globally. So they are very solid, very well established. The meeting structure they have defined is very well designed. So we really don't need to invent the wheel again. So we'll use that meeting structure. It's global organization, very well established, very well organized. They have a overall system of managing the local clubs through their districts and their organization segments. And recently they have introduced some very compelling educational frameworks. So learning path is one of them. I'll show you a glimpse of that learning path. So if you go to Toastmaster, you will automatically follow that. And then support structure. So if you create a new club, for example, and you don't have experience, there is support available from Toastmaster International. They will help you to establish the club, run the club, and there is some accountability structure how your club is running. So it's a well defined and well designed structure. From Mecca side, we are very good at advanced skill coaching, leadership coaching, in-depth coaching, personal leadership, public leadership, emotional intelligence, all those leadership competencies, we deliver a lot better than many others. Peer networking. So you could, by the way, join any Toastmaster club. There are thousands of clubs, and you can go and join any club, but you would not know what is the quality of other people over there who are become your peers. In Mecca Toastmasters, we only have Mecca sponsored professionals. So all most of the professionals are really Mecca trained, but even if they have not attended any training, it's not a requirement. They are basically high profile finance professionals. So there is high probability that once you join Mecca Toastmaster Club, your peers are basically CFOs and senior level finance executive. We should also be able to provide you the CPE and CPD credits. So we are endorsed and approved by NASPA, which is the highest accreditation authority in USA for AICPA. And any eligible events you would participate, you will get the CP or CPD credits, which all accounting bodies around the world accepted. Then it's not about communication. Through the coaching will provide, you would be able to develop overall leadership, emotional intelligence, communication, interaction, presentation, name it. And then hopefully you're already part of Mecca community, or you will become part of the Mecca community. So these are the two things combined together would really create a very sort of successful recipe for your leadership journey. So little quick introduction for those who are not familiar with Toastmaster. As I said, it's a 100 years old organization. Currently, they have 364,000 members, individual members, and there are 16,200 clubs across the world. Almost all countries, all cities, they have it in 145 countries. And they basically do what they are good at, helping provide the support for communication skills development. So it's hands-on learning. I'll briefly explain you the structure, how the meeting goes, but there is a lot of literature available on the website. You could search it. So it's hands-on learning environment, which means there are group like 15, 20 people sitting together and trying to help each other and making presentations and speeches. So it's practice prepared and impromptu speeches they conduct, opportunities to lead at every meeting. So as I said, that it's not only communication, also your leadership skills. They right away provide feedback and evaluations on presenters' performance. And you could also have access to some mentors. So those are some additional advantages of Toastmaster Club. How will you benefit? So of course, improve your public speaking skills, build leadership skills, practice with writing speeches. So they also encourage you to write a speech and then prepare and present. We don't encourage preparation through writing, but you could do that initially. Once you become a very skilled professional presenter, then you don't write speeches, you only write the outline. Gain a competitive advantage. Of course, it is going to help you significantly at your workplace directly and in your career. Work on networking in a small and supportive environment. So as I said, then when you come to the Mecca Toastmaster, there is high probability that there are other CFOs or senior finance professionals are there, which you could network and develop relationship. Build confidence and self-awareness, unlimited personal growth, and maximize your potential. I think that's all very obvious. Toastmaster used to be in-person meetings only before pandemic. Of course, pandemic COVID-19 has changed the world, so they have allowed their clubs to be online as well. And there are some clubs which are only online currently. So we'll start with online clubs, of course, in today's time. But when there is a safe environment, hopefully by middle of the year, end of the year, we'll make them hybrid, which means that those clubs could do online as well as in person. Some people would like to participate in person, some people would like to participate in online. So those clubs will ultimately be hybrid in nature. Meeting format will strictly follow the Toastmaster protocols, whatever the protocols are. I'll explain you briefly what those protocols are. Frequency, their requirement is at least once in a month. I think 2 meetings in a month is ideal. That creates the most benefit for most of the people. Their requirement of the size is the club should have minimum 20 members, each club. And their recommendation or suggestion is that if their number increases or reaches to 40, they should split the club into two clubs. So what they are suggesting basically that 20, 25, or maybe 30 is the ideal number of members in a club. And I think that's true because you want to practice. If there's a club with 200 people, probably your turn would never come up for the whole year, right? So these are the right size of clubs with right focus on the skills development, I believe. Fee structure, that's the main thing. So Toastmaster has a few charges like new members fees, setup fee. They have waived those fees for the time being currently. The only fee you are required to pay to Toastmaster is $45 for 6 months. It's not a error or mistake here. $45 for 6 months, which means just $7.50 per month. Mecca, we have tried to gone beyond Toastmaster, what we could offer more, and Mecca will not charge anything. So we'll provide you coaching on a regular basis, leadership coaching, but that would be free as long as you are part of the Mecca Toastmaster Club. If you withdraw from the Toastmaster, you will also withdraw from the Mecca free coaching. Of course, you can come to the paid coaching, but that is the fee structure. So this is basically a non-profit or voluntary work to benefit the community as much as large as possible. Club officers, so of course you need people who would organize these clubs and run these clubs, and these are called the club officers, and will identify those from the members, and those people would become volunteers, and these volunteers are rotatable, which means you can assume a responsibility of becoming a club officer for 6 months, and then someone else would take that responsibility after 6 months or 1 year as it is appropriate. So there are three essential roles with the club officers. One role would be the club president, another would be club vice president, and third would be club secretary. And there are certain specific responsibilities for them. So the benefit here is that, of course, you can join as an ordinary member and you will get the benefit. But if you assume the role of a club officer, that's a leadership experience. You basically practice your leadership, becoming a club president. You're dealing with 20, 25, 30 people, and you are discussing between yourselves. So here is another thought I would like to share with you. If you are a CFO in a sizable organization and there are 50 or 100 people report to you, and you consider yourself as a leader because the 50 or 100 people report to you and follow you, you are a fake leader in a fake environment because the corporate environment is not real. Those 50 or 100 people who are following you because they are paid to follow you. They're not your followers or genuine followers. They are paid to follow you. That is how you become a leader. The real leadership is outside the corporate environment in real world. Come here in the Toastmaster Club. These are volunteers, right? All members are based on their own desire. They have joined the club and they are accepting you as a discretionary leader. They will respect you if you really demonstrate your leadership. So basically, you are testing your leadership in a real, genuine world external environment. And I think that experience is very precious for your corporate leadership development because that would look much easier if you do a little practice here. Typical meeting format for Toastmaster. So a meeting is usually 60 minutes to 90 minutes or maybe 2 hours max. And it starts with a nominated person as the Toastmaster who will be basically what you call master of ceremony, who will be basically the host, who will make announcements, introduce people. And then the main part of the meeting is three or four prepared speeches. So when your turn will come, you will basically making a presentation, formal prepared speech in front of those members of the club. And for each speech or presentation, there would be an evaluation by another member. And that evaluation is not just making loose comments, it's very structured. There are forms and there are criteria and there are guidelines how you should really provide the feedback. So you will get a very formatted, formal feedback, and for each presenter from a separate evaluator. Then another part of the meeting is table topics. So speeches are prepared, but table topics are basically right at the spot. A person who is nominated for the table topics will give you a topic, and you are invited to speak right there without any preparation. I think that's another very important part component of the meeting, that you develop an ability to speak impromptu without preparation, and the topic comes. And total duration, as I said, mostly 60, 90 minutes. You could also decide for 2 hours. So the duration of the meeting and the frequency of the meeting is decided by the local club. So depending who are the members, you could decide with those members that what should be the frequency and what should be the duration. So that's the typical format of a meeting. Mecca benefits. So let me just explain further what you will get from Mecca with no cost. So when you become member of the Toastmaster, you become member of the Mecca Toastmaster Club, right? You would be working in a local club, for example, in Dubai or Karachi or Riyadh, but you would be part of a central database with Mecca. We'll use that central database to determine what type of coaching you need and how do we provide those coaching. So it's a central club. And at least once in a month, I would conduct that live group coaching call myself, or there may be other experts as well who would give you the regular in-depth coaching from the communication point of view, from the leadership point of view. So we'll cover one by one the personal branding, the inner game, and the relationship and networking, those type of things. We'll cover one by one. The whole leadership framework would be covered in those live sessions. We Before the pandemic, we were also having annual gathering of Mecca alumni in Dubai mainly because that's a central. And of course, with pandemic, we didn't do it for 2020, but we are very keen to restart. And as soon as there is a right time and safe environment, we'll again do in 2021, hopefully in the third or fourth quarter, this annual gathering. And you would be eligible to participate in annual gathering. And I don't need to really explain the benefits because you would meet the whole Mecca alumni who are very senior level finance professionals. And the most important thing is that in those alumni meetings or conferences where 100 to 200 people participate, we provide opportunity of learners like people like you who want to learn more on the communication skills. We want to provide them opportunity to speak from the stage. We put them in front of the 200 people on the stage and give them opportunity to speak for maybe 5-10 minutes. And you could see the pictures from the previous year. There are a lot of people. We give them 5-minute speech opportunity, and we took all the pictures from the stage, made video. It's also personal branding. To not only they are developing the confidence to speak to 200 people, which not many people get the opportunity. You are filmed, you are photographed, and you can use those pictures and videos for your personal branding, which many people did, by the way, and their profiles look very impressive now. And of course, as I said, for eligible events, you will get the CP or CPD credits, which are accepted by all accounting bodies around the world. So, in a nutshell, that is the main benefit from Mecca, and it's completely free. Pathway is the term Toastmaster use for their communication training or communication material. Now, as I understand, the material is available online or in print. So once you become member, you will get online or through print, and you will have to go through on your own. This is a framework for the pathways. So, for example, there are 11 pathways. When you enroll into Toastmaster, they will send you all the information. You can choose one or two, like dynamic leadership or effective coaching, or engaging in humor, or innovative planning, or leadership development, motivational strategy, etc., etc. You can see the list. And each pathway has some competencies like public speaking, interpersonal communication, or strategic leadership, or management, or confidence building. right? So idea here is that you continue to learn some theory from here, but then you combine that, complement that with Mecca coaching, which I will provide and other people will provide. And that will, so this is more like communication, that more like leadership. And you combine the two, and then you apply your practice with a combination of the two knowledge bases you are developing. And I think it will create magical results for you. They Toastmasters also have certain other activities, like they do the annual conventions. They make some speech contest which you could participate stage by step. There is a Toastmaster magazine you will get free by this membership. So this is their fee structure, which is not basically very expensive, but even with this small fee, they have waived it. So $125 charter fee for the club is free, waived currently. I think by end of this month. $20 new membership fee is waived. The only thing you have to do is $45 for 6 months, which comes to $7.50 per month. What could be cheaper than that? And to form a club, as you can see, there is no fee. There is just some paperwork. So once you decide to offer yourself as a volunteer, then we have a global coordinator here in Mecca who will work with you to establish your club. In those volunteer roles, basically, I think your journey to leadership is accelerating, because you are not only learning communication, you are basically running a small organization. You are the CEO of that organization or vice president of that organization. So you are basically conducting effective meetings, practicing time management, listening skills, presentation skills, boost team collaboration, motivating them, guide them. So it's all the full ingredient of leadership development are available to you at free of cost. And Toastmaster from the corporate office in USA, they are available for help. So club mentors assist new clubs for 6 months. If you, first of all, we already have our in-house resource, Hari Subramanian. But if you still need help, Toastmaster International will assign a coach from their side to help you establish and run the club. Based on the interest registered, all of you, this is what our situation is. We can immediately start clubs in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Gulf, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Pakistan, India, Africa, America, and Europe. There are enough members. But in future, we would like to expand those clubs into city-based. So many of you are part of the Mecca CFO groups. And these networking groups are already established, I think, in 15, 16 cities across Pakistan and Middle East. And our idea is that convert them into those Toastmaster clubs. So really they could do some meaningful activities in terms of learning and development. So later on, we could create city-based Toastmaster club, Mecca Toastmaster club in each major city. And there is no limit how many we could open. But initially we would like to start with 7 clubs, which means that if you are in Jeddah or Dammam or Al Khubar or Riyadh, you could join one club in Saudi Arabia. People in smaller places, they can join a club in another country. Online doesn't make any difference. By the time we have learned something, we have established these clubs, then we could open new clubs city based. If it is city based, you can also meet in person. That's the main advantages. So future potential is that we will expand the network to many clubs, and not only those clubs, but together all those clubs, you are part of the central Mecca Toastmaster clubs, where we are doing coaching, we are doing the annual gathering, and some other stuff.